It's that time of year again. Holidays are upon us. Welcome to the Monday live stream for The Last Symptom by Brian Barnett. I'm Brian Barnett. Happy to have you here. Thought we'd talk today about family, some nice things you can do while you're spending all this time around your family this time of year. Make an announcement. The lastsymptom.locals.com is how you join our online community. You can also join us there on our online community by downloading the really nifty locals.com app from the App Store and then just searching for The Last Symptom by Brian Barnett within. We'll see you there. And to give you a little background on me, I lived for a long, long time with borderline personality disorder. Didn't know I had it. But boy, the consequences of living with it caught up to me, and then I had to go through a long period of time of trying to figure that out and ridden myself of it, which I did. And now I'm an internet guy who talks about how I did it and the laws and principles involved with being healthy and staying healthy. You know, that was during my authentic recovery process. That was the big part of the work. I mean, that was the major part of the work, was just making adjustments to my perspectives, my ways of thinking. The way that I looked at the world had established my understanding of the world. I had to completely make adjustments to all of that, which involved identifying the perspectives that I lived with, which were completely inaccurate and false and distorted. A lot of the therapists and psychologists and stuff use that term distorted. You know, it's like looking in a funhouse mirror at a state fair or something. The image is all distorted. And that's what happens when you're unhealthy and you're living with these false perspectives. It distorts your understanding. I mean, it distorts the foundation that you're working on to make decisions and stuff. I'll give you an example. This is not a political statement, but it involves a politician, so I got to walk carefully. You might have seen in the news that President Joe Biden has pardoned his son for all the bad things he did and all the bad things he might have done over an 11-year period. Now, I was reading a little bit about him. I'll give you, to be honest with you, that family has never really appealed to me. Politics aside, just the way they are has just not appealed to me. But I was reading a little bit about the pardon last night, and one person's take on the pardon for his son it was interesting to me. It was something I had not taken into consideration. Joe Biden's first wife was killed in this tragic accident. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Was killed in this terrible accident. Well, Hunter Biden, that was his mom. Now, if you think about the impact that had on a young Hunter Biden and the emotional turmoil that sent him into. So, of course, then you see all this behavior with drugs and prostitutes and acting out and, you know, really kind of a debauched life. And, you know, for me doing this type of work, I can see the connection. So I have sympathy. I have sympathy for that family, even though, you know, I'm not crazy about them. As a human being, I have sympathy for them. And I have sympathy for Hunter. That must have been very difficult to lose his mom that way, and then his living in a very public, under a very public spotlight, his father in politics and all that. Could not have been easy. And so I can sympathize with the emotional turmoil that Hunter dealt with, and then his way of coping with that later in life. At the same time, enabling a person's unhealth is never the loving thing to do. And so while I can sympathize with Joe Biden's decision to completely shield his son from all of the consequences of his decisions, at the same time, it's the wrong thing to do. It's not the loving thing to do. The loving thing to do, which is counterintuitive, especially when you're unhealthy, is to allow the people we love to suffer the full brunt of the consequences of their decisions. It ain't easy to do. And I'll tell you, when it was being done to me, when I was being allowed to suffer the full brunt of the consequences of my behaviors and decisions, I didn't like it. But I wouldn't be here now being able to talk about these things if I had not gone through that. It's the fact that very insightful people allowed me to suffer that I'm healthy now. And so, that's worth keeping in mind. I can understand the temptation that Joe Biden had to pardon his son. He's got the power. He can sign a paper and all Hunter Biden's problems go away. It was the absolute worst thing he could have done for his son. And honestly, it was the worst thing he could have done for his son. So what do you guys think about it? You guys been keeping up with the news and stuff? And let's try to keep politics out of it. We're just talking about people as people, human beings doing human being things. What do you guys think of the Joe Biden pardon? Did it give you some things to think about? Hello, everybody on YouTube. Hello, everybody on Rumble. First half of our live streams are open to everybody, and then the second half we go to our supporters on locals only. While you guys are writing what you think about this Joe Biden pardon, let's talk a little bit about family, because we're coming into the holidays. There was this post on X the other day, and I wish I could give the person credit who wrote this. I've just kind of copied the outline, and I wanted to go through it. It's about making the best of your time with your family. And I thought that the author of this brought up some really nice things to be mindful about. And before we get into this list, I will tell you that as soon as we get done with the live stream today, I'm planning on recording a special holiday episode of Last Symptom Podcast. Going to go over some laws and principles for how to deal with your family, all the family that you're going to be spending time around over the holidays and stuff like that. And hopefully that'll be a nice guide and reminders in there for everybody who's going to be deal with some family that maybe is test your limits, let's say. Anna can hear and see me. I wonder if everybody else can. First thing, showing your care. Do you look for opportunities to express your care to those you claim to care about? Anna says, I don't understand the legal line of thinking that allows presidents to condone criminal judgments. Well, the president is a very powerful man. And so he has the authority to pardon federal crimes. As far as state crimes go, though, he doesn't have the authority. For example, if I commit a state crime here in the state where I live, he would not have the authority to pardon me for that. It's federal crimes, so crimes against government. So every day presents opportunities to express that you care about somebody in small, meaningful ways. Doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to wait until you can afford to buy somebody a new car to do something nice for them. So think about this. Would you like a bite of my dessert? I'm stopping at the store. Can I get you anything? Are you modeling this sort of behavior not only in your family, but to your friends? I think about um, a greeting card, how little effort that takes. It does take a little bit of effort, though. And that's why it's so meaningful when you get something like that in the mail, isn't it? Much more impactful than like an email or a text message. When you get something like that in the mail, you know that somebody set aside, they purposely set aside some time in their life to buy the card, to write the card out, to send the card. This means that they were really thinking about you. That's a really powerful way to do something nice for those who you claim to care about. So don't put it off. Get in the habit of doing that every day, doing something like that. I've talked about how there really is more joy in giving than in receiving. Well, that applies to everything in life. So even when it comes to like love, there's more joy in giving love than there is in getting love back. There's more joy in expressing your care for another person than there is in somebody expressing their care for you. So if you don't feel great lately, if you feel down and you want to feel better, remember that. Maybe you're not expressing your care enough for other people. Maybe you're not extending love enough toward other people. Every day is an opportunity for that. So just like you might try to exercise a little bit every day, try to get into the habit of expressing your care for another person every day. Pick different people. You know, there's a lot of people in our lives that would enjoy that. Warm welcomes and farewells. So here's another opportunity for you to express in a small way your care for somebody else. And that is every time a family member or a friend or somebody walks through the door, you get up out of your seat if you're physically able, and you go and greet them. You give them a hug, you give them a handshake, you kiss them, but you make that effort no matter how mundane it is that somebody comes into the house. So it might be your husband or something, comes in the house every day at 4 o'clock, right? Maybe you've gotten into the habit of not getting out of your chair or just kind of looking over your shoulder and, hey, don't do that. Get into the habit of actually getting up out of your chair, going and giving them a hug, giving them a good firm handshake or a kiss or something like that. These small gestures of love compound over time. And how about meaningful night rituals? So, for example, don't let family members just go to bed without saying anything to them. Make sure that you say good night to them. And this person who made this outline suggested rituals. Rituals, I guess, is a good term. I think of them as routines. I think routines are very healthy in life. The healthier I've gotten, the more routines I've adopted in my life. And the more routines that I adopt, the healthier I feel. So I saw somebody the other night. I'm intending to. I still am sick. I woke up still sick this morning. Anna insults me and tells me I still look sick. I'm completely aware of that. I am still sick. But I'll tell you, I feel better than I felt all week. So, anyway, I saw somebody post the other day, said an after supper walk should be a national habit for everybody. And I said that he's right. That's a fantastic idea. So that's a routine that I'm hoping to adopt into my life. And, once you turn it into a routine, it's just so easy to do. It's like when you get in your car and you automatically put on your seatbelt. Once it turns into a habit or routine, then it gives your life structure. And I like that. When I was unhealthy, everything was off the cuff. Everything was off the cuff. I didn't go to bed at a certain time. I didn't eat at a certain time. I didn't do anything at a certain time. In fact, the thought of that kind of turned me off. I like the freeness of just doing whatever I wanted whenever I felt like doing it. But I'll tell you what, it is not boring to live with routines. Or structure in your life. These things bring health and stability to your everyday life. So I recommend them. So walking after supper, good routine, saying goodnight to everybody when everybody goes to bed. These rituals and routines, they'll evolve as your children grow, but keeping traditions like this brings everybody together, strengthens relationships, strengthens bonds. He says, get a dog. Now, I'll tell you this about getting a dog. Getting a dog is not going to fix anything. It's like the idea of having a baby because there's two unhealthy people in a marriage and they're miserable. And so they say to fix our relationship, we're going to have a baby. What a terrible idea. What a terrible idea. Well, just like that's a terrible idea. Getting a dog, if you're unhealthy, the people in your family are all unhealthy. Getting a dog is not going to fix anything. It's going to make things worse because it's going to add to stress. It's going to add to anxiety. It's going to make people frustrated and angry. So getting a dog isn't going to fix anything. But if you're on the downward slope toward getting authentically emotionally healthy, getting a dog's great. Brings a whole new level of love to the home. They can help establish a routine, right? Like I feed my dogs every day at the same times every day. We have our routines, and that brings stability to life. Dogs can become a source of joy, laughter, companionship, stuff like that. Cats can do that too, by the way. I know, Anna. I'm just kidding about you insulting me. I know I've been sick all week. For those of you who aren't aware, I've had the flu all week long, or COVID or something. And I'm just coming down off of it. So supper time. How many of you have supper together as a family? I'm curious. Got some people on YouTube, got some people on Locals, got somebody on Rumble. I'm genuinely curious. How many of you have managed to establish that in your families? Even if you're just a couple with no kids, do you have at least one meal together? Dining together is so important for people you care. Supper is dinner. Yes. The third meal of the day. Where I'm from, dinner is lunch. So we have breakfast, dinner, and supper. Anna does have supper with her family. And Anna is a single mother. So that's nice. Do you guys get to talk around supper, the supper table? Does your son open up to you around the supper table? What sorts of things do you guys talk about? Michael says sometimes. Here's my formula for establishing a routine, Michael, and everybody else who'd be interested in knowing this. Remember, I used to be tremendously emotionally unhealthy. My life was chaotic, and I kind of liked the chaos. And I used to think of establishing routines as being, just impossible, especially when it involves other people. So how do you do it? Well, here's how I recommend doing it. Establishing any routine. Don't bite off more than you can chew at the beginning. The way that I've found success is by keeping it very brief and simple at the beginning. So you want to establish let's say walking around the neighborhood, a walk after supper or something like that. The way that I would find success in doing that, and I'm using this as an example because it's a routine I haven't established yet for myself. It's one I want to establish. So I'm telling you literally how I plan to go about it. I might think, you know what I really want to do? I want to walk for an hour. An hour after supper every single day. That's an awful big commitment. And what's probably going to happen is if I go into it like that, what's going to happen is that I'm going to get discouraged and give up after like 3 days because it's too big of a commitment just right out of the gate. I'm going to find more success if I say to myself, let's make it 5 minutes. Just a 5-minute walk. That's literally like down to the stop sign and back. You say, well, what's that going to do? Well, what it's going to do, it's going to help you establish it. And then each day or each week, you just grow it a little bit more. So after a week, I might do 10 minutes. After another week, I might do 20 minutes. You see, I grow it, but I keep it simple at the very beginning so that I don't get discouraged. And what I say in my brain is, golly, this is so easy to do. Well, when you do it that way, and the thought in your head is, well, this is so easy to do, then you're encouraged to do it again the next day. But if you, right out of the gate, do an hour's walk, you come home exhausted, it was a big commitment, you gave up an hour of something else in order to do it, and you actually come home discouraged. So that's the way I do everything. I've told the story about how I built a fence here when I moved to this house. I'd never built a fence before, and this was quite a significant fence that I built. But the way I got started was when I thought about the whole project, it was overwhelming to me. But then I just looked at this really short section of yard, and I thought, I could put a fence right there. Just a little short section of yard. And so I thought, well, that's where I'm going to start. And if I do well, then I'll just keep going. If I get in over my head, I'll find somebody else to help me finish it. Well, by the time I did that little tiny section of yard, then I knew what I was doing. And so it was just a matter of just continuing, just keep going. And so for me, at least, everybody's different. But for me, at least, when I try to think about building a pyramid, that's overwhelming to me. But when I think about just moving a single block into position, that's not overwhelming. I say, I can do that. I can at least do that. Well, what happens when you've moved that block into position? You go, oh, that was simple. I'm going to go get the next block. So I do everything in life like that, including establishing routines, traditions with my daughter, those sorts of things. Anna, as far as conversation with her son around the supper table, she says she talks about everything. News, what we think, how we feel, people we know, TV series, the girl he likes, really, he talks to you about that. That's quite an accomplishment. Jokes, F1, soccer, nonsense. Sometimes we are tired and we don't talk. One recommendation I have for families is to keep a pack of cards or a board game right next to the supper table. Right next to the supper table. That way, instead of just finishing your meal and taking off, you can linger. Have tea or something. Have a routine of like having a cup of tea or something after supper, or a glass of wine. And then say, hey, would you like to play a round of cards? And so before everybody gets up off the table, the cards are right there. You can pull the cards out, have a quick game. And again, that's the sort of thing that grows, because what happens is the person will say, that was fun. You want to play another round? Yeah, let's play another round. You want to play another round? Yeah, let's play another. The loser always wants to play another round and go fish. All right. Make supper a time to express gratitude out loud. Set the tone by appreciating both the big things and the small. This simple practice brings warmth to the table and reminds everyone of what truly matters. The author says that prayer is powerful. It's an opportunity to express appreciation, gratitude, and a connection to something greater than yourself. Walks or hikes in nature. I say walks, period. I have never had better conversations. There's two situations that I think contribute to the very best conversations you'll ever have in life. One is sitting around a campfire in the middle of the woods. Number two is walks. Taking a walk with somebody contributes so well to really good conversation. In fact, I've been thinking a lot about walks lately. My late friend Jordan and I, we used to take a lot of walks, get a lot of great conversation in. The best conversations happen outdoors, whether it's a long hike or a short walk. And something else I was reading here just past couple of days said that walking contributes to creativity. It kind of clears out cobwebs. It helps you focus on a problem and resolve it during the walk. In fact, the thing I was reading said that all of the greatest entrepreneurs and the greatest minds, like Steve Jobs, all these people who have contributed a lot to society, were all big into walks. I know Stephen King, big into walking. He'd take a walk every day. That's why he got hit by that van, 15 years ago or so. He was on a walk. So don't walk in the street, walk on the sidewalk. What do you guys think about walks? You have good conversations when you take walks? Anna says that playing cards is a tradition in her big family. And her son hated it for years, but now he's come to liking it. And we play at least once a week. Oh, that's nice. What do you guys play? With my daughter, I like to play Go Fish, because it's a very small and simple commitment, and it usually turns into like 3 or 4 or 5 games, but they're quick, And it's hard to cheat at Go Fish. See what you guys think about walks and conversation. I'm not making that up. The best conversations I've ever had have been on walks or around a campfire out in the middle of the woods. And, if alcohol is not a problem for you, and you throw a little bit of alcohol in there, like a glass of whiskey or something, and in a relaxing environment like that, tell you what, man, you end up getting to know people, getting into really deep conversations. Now, this special episode of Last Symptom Podcast that I'm going to record after this live stream, we're going to talk about the laws and principles that will specifically help you get through the holidays when you're dealing with family, maybe in-laws, maybe people that have different belief systems than you and stuff like that, that could easily lead to arguments and blow-ups and stuff like that. I want to remind you about some of the things that you'll benefit from keeping in mind when you're going into these situations with your family and friends and stuff, so that you can be like a Jedi Knight, you know, as far emotionally speaking, as far as being in these situations, really keeping your cool and stuff like that, managing the situation well. A card game called Telefunken. I just found out was an appliances trademark. Maybe an old lady invented it, and someone asked her for the name of the game, and she just looked at her washing machine to name it. Local game. Okay. Telefunken. Yeah, I never heard of that one. You know what my daughter likes to play? My daughter likes to play poker. And I'm not a very good poker player, but I showed her how to play poker, and she loves poker. We don't bet or anything, but my daughter's getting to this age where she's liking things that I would never have suspected that she would like. And that's fascinating to me, because it allows me to get to know her, what makes her unique. You know, what really makes her her, as opposed to just being an extension of me. Because it's not surprising to me when she likes the things I like. What's surprising to me is when I imagine that she would not like a thing naturally, and she turns out loving it. I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, I was going to watch a movie with her, and I thought, what should we watch? And so I bought James and the Giant Peach. And it's a Disney movie by Tim Burton. You know, the movie did not do that well, and it doesn't have an enormously high rating on Rotten Tomatoes or anything like that. But I thought, you know, it's on sale. I'll buy it. It's kind of cartoony, so maybe she'll like. I haven't seen it in a long time. So I bought this movie, James and the Giant Peach, and I thought she's going to be bored throughout this whole thing. Do you know she claims that is now her favorite movie of all time, James and the Giant Peach. And it's those sorts of things that surprise me. And it makes me think, like, man, there are opportunities for me to get to know my daughter better than I do know her. I think I know her really well. Well, things like that tell me you don't know her as well as you could. That's your little girl. You have an opportunity. This is an opportunity for you to really understand what makes her tick. So it's things like that, and like playing poker. I thought it was going to bore her to death. We played one game of poker, and she was just hooked on it. She always wants to play poker. So again, that's another opportunity for me to stop and say, you know, you're taking for granted, Barnett, your little girl. You're taking for granted that you know her well enough, but there's so many layers to her left for you to learn about her. So keep that in mind. We're now at 33 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit more about some things, more controversial things. We're going to do that on our locals platform. For the Last Symptom supporters, you folks on YouTube, think about joining us over there, and on Rumble. Think about joining us over on our locals family. We're going to close down the live stream and go to supporters only over there and talk about the more titillating stuff, the things we don't want to get out there into the open. So if you guys want to be a part of that, join us over on locals. And an easy way you can figure out how to join us over there is just go over to thelastsymptom.com. Links are in the free and paid resources tab. It's simple. And one thing I've been saying here lately is that when you go to download the locals app, they advertise all of these divisive political talking heads. I'm not with them. I'm politically neutral. I did not choose the locals platform because of politics. I chose it for simply for free speech interests, and also I really enjoy the platform. The platform is solid. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I think that when a lot of people go to download the Locals app and they see these people who are on a political side, they probably think, well, that puts him in a political category too. No, it doesn't. I'm not with them. I'm politically neutral. So we're going to local supporters only now. Think about joining us over there.